We are on location in Prince George with Ben Gibson. He is the co-host of Wicked and Grim podcast. Ben, excited to have you on.
I'm excited to be here.
When I heard you had a podcast, a true crime podcast nonetheless, but a podcast in Prince George, I was pretty excited about that because there aren't a lot of people in Prince George doing that kind of thing. I'd like to know how you kind of got started in that and what prompted you to start doing a podcast on crime.
Audio wasn't my media of choice. I was always more visual, video cameras, videography, that sort of stuff. And with the growth of YouTube, when I kind of got out of high school, you're talking like, I think YouTube came out like 2008, something like that. I always had that fascination with putting videos online, and then the idea of becoming a YouTuber started to grow. That would be a great career. I always had this dream of being a YouTuber, a content creator, but of course it's a hard stretch, a hard reach, a hard reality for a lot of people to actually chase. So I was working in sawmills. My wife was going to school and earning that good old honest Prince George paycheck, right? But it wasn't a world for me. There was always a one day I'll leave and one day I'll do something I want to do. And being a content creator was that. But there was one day, I think it would have been about early 2019, I was driving home from a night shift from the sawmill, and I was listening to a creator by the name of Gary Vee. Do you know who Gary Vee is?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Great guy. He's a little over the top, I'll be honest, but everything he talks about, his meanings and everything, spot on. And I was listening to a keynote speech where he was saying, TikTok is the latest, greatest thing. Why aren't you on there? You can be a creator overnight. As I'm driving, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm heading home. I'm like, okay, well, he's kind of right. Back in the day when Facebook first started, I was like, oh, that's dumb. I'm not going to go on Facebook. And then guess what I did? A couple months later, I was on Facebook. And then same with Instagram. Well, Instagram's taken off and, well, I've already got Facebook. Why do I need another app? Sure enough, eventually I'm on Instagram. And creators have spawned from both platforms. So I thought, okay, well, he's onto something. Maybe I'll do that. I'll just take the dive and I'll go into TikTok. Dived onto TikTok, started doing a bunch of the goofy dances, the little lip syncing jokes, all this kind of corny stuff, but it was fun. Got me out there and creating content. Sure enough, my TikTok took off. So I got, I think at my highest point, about 193,000 followers on TikTok, but I realized I'm chasing the algorithm, I'm chasing the views. I don't want to do that. So what's something that I can do where I create and people chase what I create instead of me chasing to show them what I'm creating? So I thought YouTube is really tough to get into. Podcasting seems to be just as high demand, but there's not near as many creators. So I wanted to do podcasting. Dove into podcasting. First couple weren't the greatest success. I needed a co-host that was reliable. Who's the most reliable person I know? Same person who lives in the house with me, my wife. I was not a true crime fan. She was. So we married the two ideas. We wanted to spend a little more time together. We were always working anyways. So I'm like, well, if I want to create, you like true crime, and we want to spend more time together, let's do a true crime podcast. And that's pretty much the birth of becoming in the industry and Wicked and Grim.
Wow. Yeah. So initially, you knew you wanted to be a content creator in some way.
Yes.
So it sounds like you actually had that as a goal, and then the opportunities presented itself, which you found through pursuing it, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the opportunities presented themselves. It was a matter of looking in the right places. Because I had several YouTube channels when I was younger, trying to become a vlogger or this and that and trying to do something. None of them took off. What TikTok did was gave me the understanding of creating for views versus creating for myself, or creating something that people want to see rather than creating something I want to see. So I realized I need to reshape all the way I'm making content. I've been in photography and videography and things like that, so I knew my way around cameras. And if I apply all this in an aspect of the same way someone goes to school for 5 years to become a doctor, what if I make content, not for me, but for other people? And if I do that consistently over 5 years, what would happen? After 5 years, a doctor gets out of school, they go and become a doctor. But what if after 5 years I'm done and I am a podcaster? And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Making content for other people is the way to go. Because you watch any of the videos that are out there, Gary Vee, what's he doing? Making content for people. right?
You have to love it though too. You have to love the content, love the process. If you're just making it strictly for everyone else, it's not going to be a long-term thing. You have to make it for other people, but enjoy it too.
Have a passion for what you're
Yes.
producing. And
Before I was, look at me, look at my day, look what I'm doing. No one cared about me then, right? No one cares about me going and getting coffee in the morning because who am I? But if I actually create something around what people want to see and I'm enjoying it in the process, then you can actually create something that grows. So you have to build something for people to want to see before they invest in you. And that was kind of the structure is, okay, offer value first. It's an investment. Then you get your returns later.
So then with all that in mind, you found this niche somehow. You found true crime. Did you just try it once just to see what would happen, or what made you go full bore into it?
Again, it was kind of an analytical aspect. I looked at it, saw potential in it. People love true crime. It's a niche that has not gone anywhere in the last hundreds of years. You look at newspapers, headlines, murders, all this happened. So there's always going to be interest in true crime, and it's still a growing niche. So when I analyzed it and approached my wife that she likes true crime, we should do a true crime podcast, I thought, okay, true crime, potential for growth. We live in the same house. We can be consistent, right? Hosts that aren't going to cancel on each other last minute or anything. And then finally at the time, there was no other, as far as I could find, no other husband and wife duo doing true crime. So then that offered something unique as well. So looking at that, I kind of thought, you know what? This, for all intents and purposes, should grow. It has all the right things to it.
And one thing I found listening to your podcast, I thought it was going to be like a narrated story the whole way through. That's what I expect. But when I listen to it, I hear you and your wife going back and forth. That's what makes this more interesting. You're bringing yourselves into it and your thoughts and stuff. And you're talking about the story as a conversation together rather than just being somebody who's narrating a headline or a newspaper, right?
Exactly. So that's where people start getting invested in who we are. They start to care about our opinions, just like we cared about Peter McKinnon's coffee. So they want to hear what our aspect is, what our perspective is. So we will sit down. I'm usually the one who researches the case. Nicole started doing it more so, but we found our own points that we settle into. So I'll research and tell the story, and Nicole is more the audience voice. So she kind of reacts and, oh my God, I can't believe this happened or that happened. And it's true reactions, not scripted. So the idea is you should feel like you're sitting down with friends, having a drink or a conversation like this, something candid, and you go through it all and it unfolds with you sitting there next to us, where that's how you should feel.
Oh, so you're doing the research and she doesn't know?
She doesn't know.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense now.
Sometimes I'll give her like a 15, 20-second elevator pitch. I'm like, okay, this is going to blow your mind. This is what's happening. But she doesn't know any of the details. 90% of the time, she doesn't know anything.
Organization's a huge thing with research. How do you pick a story? How do you find a topic that you want to go into and decide that this is valid or worth it?
I mean, there's a lot of different avenues. There's, of course, diving down Reddit rabbit holes. Cruising YouTube is another good one. Just Google searches, brutal true crime between 1990 to 2000, something along those lines, or survival story. But we're luckily at a point now where we have such a community supporting us. We get requests on a daily basis from dozens of people. So if we're really lost we're not sure what to do next, we'll dive into those requests. And we have a Patreon community too. And we try and do requests from Patreon as well. So people will say, I want to hear this story. We'll do it as best we can. But we try and do a balance. So it's like if we do a really horrific case, then the next one maybe we'll try and be a survival story where someone goes through a lot, but they come out of it and they're still alive, they make it. So trying to find that ebb and flow between it all is really important too.
Have you ever felt really uncomfortable digging into a story?
Yes, there's definitely been a few for sure. And it's usually the ones where people are tortured prolonged. Some of the things that some people have gone through is beyond unimaginable, to say the least. And I feel really bad for those people too.
If you're going to research a story and it's one of your favorite ones, what would be one of your favorite ones to dig into?
I like mysteries. My wife hates them.
Like mysteries that are still ongoing mysteries?
Yes, cold cases, open cases, things like that we don't know what happened. And it's not that I like a case that's unsolved. I want a case to be solved. Let's be honest. I want the perpetrator to get caught. I want the victim and their family to have that closure, that sort of stuff. But for my brain, I really like thinking and trying to wrap my head around it. With a mystery, it's open-ended, and there's many possibilities to the end of a story. So I like, well, what if this, or what if that? So that's really what I have to do, is mysteries and that sort of stuff.
Take me through the process of researching a story and then deciding if this is a good fit for you, whether you're going to proceed with it, and then just how you kind of keep digging into it.
Okay. Well, it usually starts on YouTube, seeing what other creators have done for the same story. Not only that, but also different documentaries or news coverage. I sit down and I start listening to those first of all. It gives me a really good understanding of introduction to the story, the rising action, and the resolution of the story. So trying to figure out what's happening through the process, what it's all about, that's my first step. And usually that'll tell me if it's a story that I want to cover or not, if it's got everything I'm looking for. If I'm looking for that graphic case right now, because it's been a little bit lighter, then maybe this one's not graphic enough, I need to go something more. Or if I want a survival story and it turns out the person didn't survive, well, clearly that's not going to be the story. So once I've reviewed some other presentations on the case, then it's into Google. Then it's into Google, it's into Reddit, it's into all the rabbit holes online that I can find. And occasionally, mostly in survivor situations, there's memoirs that have been written, some novels. I have dove into a couple novels written, firsthand accounts from the survivors on their experiences. So it's just diving into whatever I can really find.
So if these stories already exist out on YouTube and various places, how do you put your own spin on it?
Well, we can all put our own spin on anything. It's your own opinion, right? So first, it's story and presentation. What I really love is storytelling. That's what I found out with my videography and things like that. I'm not so much about doing video or film, it's telling a story. I also love Dungeons and Dragons for the same aspect. It's storytelling. So telling a story in your perspective and then putting your opinions in there as well. I think this person could have done it, or whatever your perception is, that's what's going to make it unique. I mean, you are you, right? You have your podcast, your opinion, your stories. That's what people want to hear. If you can give them something that they want to see, they have that something of value. Then you put your own spin on it. That's what's going to make it so people want to see you again and again.
Let's talk about one of the cases that you've looked at and researched and studied and learned a lot about. We got to keep it clean. We got to keep it PG, sure. So you can't go into any of the details. But I'd like to just hear you tell a little bit about the story, what happened, and the research that you did that made it all into the finished podcast.
Well, our most recent story, it is the most prolific serial killer ever in the United States history. His name is Samuel, and he was a serial killer for almost 35 years. And they didn't even know they were looking for him. They didn't know he was a serial killer. And they estimate he has approximately 100 victims that he has killed. Confirmed, off the top of my head, this could be not the most accurate number, but it is either over 50 or over 60 confirmed victims that he has killed. He started in the 70s. He's targeting women who are not living the greatest lives. They're down on their luck or homeless, that sort of stuff. Not many family people that, you know what, if someone goes missing, no one's really going to look for him. That sort of person. It's so unfortunate that those people get targeted as much as they do, but he targeted them. And in the 70s, 80s, and even 90s, DNA profiling wasn't so much of a thing. So his DNA he left behind, they couldn't test. And eventually he got to a point where he was old enough, he's just not really killing anymore. The one thing that brought him down was he was arrested for possession of a narcotic, and he skipped out on his recovery program. And so there was a warrant out for his arrest. When they arrested him, I believe it was 2012 finally, standard procedure was take a DNA sample. And as soon as they took that DNA sample, all of a sudden they connected him to a few murders, put him behind bars, and he claimed he was innocent for a long time. They only had him for, I believe it was 3 or 5 different murders in jail for. And then all of a sudden, one investigator started asking the right questions and started saying, hey, you know what? We can get you a little bit transferred to another prison that he wanted to go to. And if we do that for you, tell us all these other victims you might have out there, because they suspected. And he agreed, and he just started telling them state by state, city by city, person by person, how many people he killed. And they must have interviewed him, I believe, over 600 hours as he told them about every single person. He wasn't claiming, I killed this many people. He wasn't boasting. He simply just told them one by one, and they tallied it up. And he claimed, I believe, 93 victims. There's about 40 that they have not been able to identify. There's not remains found, or they can't, via DNA or evidence, really connect to them. But there's approximately 60 confirmed. And that is the highest body count in American history for a serial killer.
One of the things you mentioned earlier was you want your stories to be somebody who's been caught. And I guess that's a good point to have, is you don't want to be releasing all these podcasts on a serial killer that's out there and have them still be out there and catch wind that you're talking about it too, right?
We have a bit of a rule. There's nothing locally that we cover for our own safety reasons. So it's nothing in Northern British Columbia we will cover in our podcast, just strictly for that. We would love to tell those stories, get victims' names out there and everything, but it's just too close to home.
That kind of makes me wonder now too about a question. With you producing these podcasts, you do generate income from it, right?
Yes.
Do you ever feel bad about profiting off of these stories? But that's kind of what it is, right?
That's the reality. We are profiting off it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to, sit here and pretend I'm not. What we're trying to really do is really take away fear-mongering from these perpetrators. So if we can go out there and say, this guy is this name, I'm going to call him a bunch of names. Our podcast is a little on the explicit side at times. So if we can take away that and really shame those sort of people for their actions and lift up victims at the same time, I think we may be taking a grim story for sure, but I think we're doing good in the aspect as well. At least that's what I like to think of it as. And if we're not doing it, someone else is going to do it. News articles and news stations have been doing it for how many years before us? It's no different. It's just a different medium. It's just us in our home rather than a big studio now.
As far as the storytelling aspect goes, you still find yourself to be a storyteller?
Oh, definitely. I almost want to make storyteller my official title. That's primarily what I look at myself as, is a storyteller.
How long are your podcasts usually?
We aim for between 45 to 50 minutes. That's about an episode. Some are a little bit longer, some are a little bit short, but that's our sweet spot, 45 to 55.
So for every minute of that podcast, there's 10 minutes of research probably went into that.
Approximately.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. But you love it.
Oh, I do.
You love it. You enjoy it. Yeah.
I do. Honestly, the best part is being able to tell a victim's story. There's cases I've told before where people have commented or messaged us about, I've never heard the story. Thank you so much for sharing it. We've actually had victims' families reach out to us too, thanking us for sharing the story, telling us we did a really good job, and just appreciating that we're keeping their voice alive.
That's amazing. Like what? Oh, that kind of gives me chills thinking about it. But like, what were your thoughts when that happened?
Oh, you put it in really good words. It gives you chills. There's nothing else that I can say that would, it made me feel really good. Like it did. It's a moment you can't put into words. Someone's thanking you for giving their family member who's passed violently a voice again. That's something you can't just replicate.
And it must inspire you to look at certain other stories.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
But in that sense as well, we've also had convicted individuals reach out to us as well, asking that we tell their side of the story too. We've had people who are behind bars writing a book on their perspective and ask us to bring them on the podcast to tell their story, and we refuse each time.
You do, eh?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't want to tell their story. They're a convicted individual who murdered and took another life. I don't feel that their voice should be heard.
I want to know like how many episodes you have, how quickly it grew. You had told me you kind of started it very slow, right?
Yes.
You started it very slow. And then there was something that happened partway through that kind of made it spike.
Initially, we started with one episode a week. It was every Tuesday. Just the most recent year and a half ago, we started 2 episodes a week. But initially, it was that we're putting out a piece of content into the world and someone might watch it eventually. Very low views, right? Low listens, I guess. So we were getting 20, 30 downloads, that sort of thing, an episode. And then it started to grow a little more from 20 to 50 to maybe 100 here and there. And then it seemed Spotify, shout out to Spotify, pushed our podcast. And suddenly we had a big spike in listenership. And I thought that was just a lucky break, but I realized that's actually the industry. That's very equivalent to going viral, right? You made a good piece of content, and so the platform pushed it. So that has happened a few times over the course of our podcast career, is platforms pushing our content. We get a spike in that listenership, and then it levels off again. So I think it would have been probably within only a few months of us starting the podcast and being very consistent every single Tuesday, we had that first spike on Spotify.
I was going to ask you about the consistency. How do you stay consistent without feeling too repetitive in what you're doing?
I don't know if I have an answer for that. I do feel repetitive at a time.
Yeah.
I do. There's times where I'm like, I feel like I'm telling the same story. I feel like I'm wording things exactly the same, verbs, nouns, all this sort of thing. It's coming out the same. But I just need to remember, just because I feel it's the same doesn't mean someone else is going to feel it's the same.
Exactly right.
We might tell the story, and you know what? A reaction might be different. A person's name is different too. Like, this is a different person, a different thing that happened. Just because, two cases are similar doesn't mean that they are the same. It's different. It's a different person. And I got to remember that too. So I'm not regurgitating the same information. I'm putting out there the victim story. I'm putting out there the best I can, a story told. Might be telling the story in a similar way, but not everyone's going to hear every single episode the way I hear it in my head. Just because I think, I used that word last time, they might not hear that same repetitiveness.
Let's talk about Ben, the guy.
The guy.
Yeah.
Let's do
what
it.
makes you you? Because I hear, you live in this gigantic house.
Oh, massive. Right? It's a mansion.
Yeah. Let's hear about it. Let's hear about it.
So this actually goes along with the podcast. When I was working in the sawmill, I had decent income, and it was a dream everyone goes for. Get the big house, you have the car, and my wife was working a 9 to 5 as well. We don't have kids, and we had a brand new build. It was a double garage. It was 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. It was way too big for us, and we realized we're just putting money into a house that we don't use. We're filling it with stuff we don't need. So we came up with the idea of selling it, getting a tiny home. So when you see those tiny home YouTube channels where it's on wheels and everything, we live in one of those. And we both thought, if we sell our house, live in a tiny home, maybe we can then actually pursue the jobs we want rather than the jobs we need to pay off the house. So we sold the house, got our tiny home, and took the dive into the career paths. She's a professional photographer. I started with videography and then the content creation on the side. Our podcast came right around the same time we did the move into the tiny home, and started growing it to the point where I didn't do videography anymore, which is just recently, and now it's strictly the podcast. So tiny home living is interesting, especially when you're running 2 businesses out of one tiny home.
Talk about the home a little bit. I know people, like listeners, are like, whoa, what's a tiny home? What does it look like? Like, how big is the kitchen? Stuff like that.
So it is 8.5 feet wide and 38 feet long. That is the size of our house. We have 2 lofts on either side. So one is kind of just like a storage loft. I keep camera gear up there quite a bit and things like that. And then the other loft is our sleeping loft. So it's our bedroom, basically. Clothes on our bed is up there. The layout is a living room, goes through into a kitchen, into a bathroom, and at the very end is a closet that we made our office. If I sit in the office, I can put my fingertips and the elbows just touch the wall on either side of me. That's how big the office is. And then it's 8.5 feet long that way. So the way we looked at it is we can have a really cool, awesome big house and jobs we're not too fond of, or we can have a really awesome tiny house and jobs we love. And then eventually those jobs could potentially grow to the point where we just get another home again. And if not, so be it. We have a tiny home.
With that being said, what are you going to chase into the future?
Oh, there's a lot of conversations my wife and I have had about this. A lot. We've talked about moving out of Prince George. We talked about staying in Prince George, talked about expanding the podcast, keeping it small. But the one thing we do know is no matter what we do with our podcast, Wicked and Grim, it's going to stay independent. That's the biggest, most important thing for us. We're getting to the point now where we've had some contracts with bigger companies joining their platform, their network and everything. But ownership is always going to 100% stay with us. I think that's the one firm thing we can say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And as you kind of move forward, you were saying kind of behind the camera here earlier that you're getting to the point where you need help now. So
Yes.
you're doing the research, you're telling the stories, your wife is co-hosting for you, and it's getting to a point where you need outside help a little bit, right?
Yeah. Well, I can't respond to all the messages and emails and everything we get. And so having someone who can maybe even filter through and be like, hey, Ben, here's an important one. Can you respond to this person? Something like that would even be nice. Or maybe finding someone who can go through cases and be like, this is a good case you need to do right now. Or here's a top 3. Go do this, one of these cases. Something to help on that back end. Not only that, but even finances or things like that. Having a team would be great. It looks like Nicole is going to be taking a bit more of that role in this coming year. She's going to be slowing down with her photography and a little bit more on the production side. So that's really nice.
So at least for the near term, the focus is on the podcast. You're intending to just keep at it. And
That's, as far as I'm concerned, I would love to do it until the day I retire is the podcast, yes.
for plans for the future, do you have any specific stories planned? Any more topics? Or
No, I fly by the seat of my pants as far as that goes. We do have some ones that we want to cover in the next year or two. We try and stay away from really big headliner ones that everyone's seen, the Netflix documentaries, that sort of thing. Try and steer clear of them because we're not really going to add much value to it. The only value we can really add is the way we tell the story and our own perspective. So we'll get to some of those bigger ones eventually. We try and spread them out so it's not all just clunked in there with everyone else's, if that makes sense. So we have a few stories that we'll eventually cover. I think I might this year dive into Jack the Ripper finally. That's one, for example. Other than a few odds and ends ones, I usually, when I sit down to research a podcast episode, that same day I'm finding out which one I'm researching.
as far as the future goes in producing the podcast, if the ultimate dream of yours came true and you woke up one day and there was a Patreon deposit, somebody's, I just love your podcast, I wanted to leave you a little gift here, and this was enough for you to go in any direction you would go, what would you do?
I don't know if you're going to like my answer. I don't know if I'd do anything different. I'd do exactly what I'm doing now. We already took that dive. We sold our house, got a tiny home, and pursued exactly what we want. So I'm exactly where I want to be. So I don't know if anything would change. If I had someone who all of a sudden decided to sponsor the podcast, say, I love you guys, here's a bunch of money, I'd probably just put it back into the podcast, into the community, into people who, giving away free merch or something like that for people who've supported us. I'd just keep doing us.
Ben, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to, well, obviously people know how to get in touch with you if you're getting so many emails that you can't even read them all. But if people want to check out your podcast, where can they find it?
We're on all audio platforms. If you can find a podcast, if you listen to any podcast on an audio platform, we'll be there. Spotify, podcast, Amazon, all those. We even have just a website where you can listen to our podcast. It's wickedandgrim.com. And give us a Google. You'll find it.
And you're releasing new episodes every week.
Every Tuesday and Friday.
Right on. Ben, amazing conversation, amazing chat.
Thanks for
Glad
having
we
me
can
here.
do this, and and good luck in the future.
Appreciate it, and good luck with this too. I'm pretty sure you're going to talk to some pretty awesome people.
Yeah, on your 300th episode, let's do this again.
Oh, I'm beyond that. I'm almost at 400.
Oh, okay. Well, on 400, let's do it again.
Sounds good.
Let's do it live.
There we go.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for watching this episode of StoryHive On Location Prince George. If you want to be our next guest, scan the QR code on the screen and get in touch with us. I'm Jeff Grunding, and from everyone here at StoryHive On Location Prince George, thanks for watching.